It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Shorman, and this is the Forum on Eagle Community Television. It's good to have you watching. Our forum is brought to you by Hayes Med. Have you ever seen a fire outside of town? Wonder how we get that fire put out? Well, I have the guy right here that's the new fire chief, the new Ellis County Rural Fire Chief. His name is Darin Meyer. Darin, good to have you on our program.
Good.
You have a background of fighting fires, but it's been in town as part of the fire department here. What caused you to say, hey, I want to take on the fire chief for rural Ellis County?
Well, firefighting has been in my family and tradition for a long amount of years, both within the City of Hayes Fire Department and the Ellis County Fire Department. And it's always been a lifetime goal or accomplishment of mine that I wanted to become a chief one day. And when past Chief Klaus retired, I saw an opportunity. Hayes is a great community, the county is a great community, and couldn't really pass it up. And when they offered the position, I had to jump on it.
Well, it does cover a much broader area, and Chief, we're going to talk a little bit about that when we take a look at what happens both inside the community of Hayes and maybe Ellis and Victoria as well, and how that happens outside when you're talking about some of those rural houses. What is the difference between those two?
A lot of differences. You can kind of almost look at some of them as luxuries. Within the City of Hayes, you got the bigger fires, a lot more dangerous. Everything's confined into one building. You have the luxury of having almost an unlimited good water supply. Out in the county, our response area is so much bigger. We're going from talking about 8 square miles to about 900 square miles, where our response time could be 15, 20 minutes to get in there. So by the time we get there, the fire in a structure could be well involved, and we don't have water supply except for what we bring with us. So that's one big aspect. And then, so we're looking at more of the rural county where it's open grassland, and we've got to love our Kansas wind. And by the time we get there within that 15 minutes, just a couple weeks ago we had a fire that was over a mile long. So it's a whole different ball game out in the county.
I know one of the things that when you have to take a look at that, and the structures vary so much, not that they don't within the community as well, but you have everything from, very nice homes, but then you also have the outbuildings and the grass that go around that, so you almost have a multiple issue of things, and that has to be a challenge as well.
Yeah, even from a grass fire structure, threatening a structure, to, the buildings out in the county are older, they're more open, more susceptible to, large fire loss, larger buildings with a lot more multiple pieces of equipment in them that, not just the building itself, but the contents can play a whole different role in what we do.
One of the things, you served 14 years on the Hayes Fire Department, correct? Mm-hmm. What training do you have to go through that's different to be a rural fire chief versus maybe in town?
Well, it's the administrative part of it, is basically the same. Mm-hmm. However, with the city, it's a career staff. They have 21 full-time guys that are there ready to respond 24 hours a day. With us, we're a full-time volunteer department. So, administering those volunteers located over 6 different companies throughout the county, it's sometimes it's the challenge of communication, getting together, getting everybody with trainings a little bit different. But being able to appreciate and understand the lives of our firefighters. They are volunteers, like I said, and we have to do everything we can to accommodate them, so that way, when we need them, they're there. We have to give them the different types of trainings that they need when they can do it. They still work their 8 to 5 jobs, and any time they give us in the evenings or on the weekend is greatly appreciated. So we've got to work into the life of a volunteer.
Those are really several areas I want to follow up in, but the danger part of that, you mentioned the training to keep firefighters safe. You think about what goes on. It wasn't too long ago, there were a couple firefighters that were killed in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Building collapsed on them, and you do all the training, but fires are not necessarily very manageable, and there's danger involved. How do you train your volunteer team, and what training do they go through to really help them be not only safe, but to be very effective?
Well, like I say, it's different in the county than the city. What we can do is offer more short-term classes focused in different specific areas. The City of Hayes requires different amounts of training that they can require their members to have. However, some of us, we can't, within the county, we can't require the certain types of trainings because of the amount of hours it takes to obtain those certifications. For example, the Firefighter 1 state certification is about a 160-hour course. That's quite a long time for any volunteer to commit to. However, we can offer short courses where we focus 8 hours this day on wildland firefighting or vehicle extrication or structural firefighting. We can do not so much the textbook part of it, but we can do the live on hands, we call it hot training, hands-on training, where we can bring trailers out where we can simulate different things and give them some hands-on training, as well as, with any career, the people who have more seniority can pass on their knowledge and information down onto the new guys.
How many hours does it take if you want to be a volunteer to actually get up to speed to go out and run one of these fire trucks and participate?
We're currently reworking our training schedule, and we're going to have some type of a checklist, so that way if you want to run this truck, you have to complete this type of checklist for that truck. Before you can go on certain fires, you need to finish this certain checklist for orientation training on maybe how we operate. So we're trying to get some things working together on that, and I got some of the volunteers that are getting me some information that we can, as the chiefs come together with all the companies and provide our input, so that way we can have a standardized checklist throughout the county. But like I say, it's hard to get everybody together at one time. Like I said, we have 6 companies, and we're looking at about 85 to 90 volunteers throughout the county. We're getting ready to, I say 85 to 90, because we're possibly looking at getting 5 more guys on. So it's a constant evolution of trying to get people in, keeping them there, and then keeping new people up to speed, as well as keeping our guys who've been on for years.
Is 90 enough volunteers when you take a look at the whole county? Because you are talking volunteers, and they're pure volunteers, correct?
Correct.
All their time
100%.
is volunteer time?
They're a volunteer fire crew. However, they are paid per call. So when they do respond, they get initial stipend for the first couple hours and then per hour after that. So it's not a true volunteer, 100% no pay. They do get somewhat of a pay base after that. But 90 firefighters.
It's not a full-time job.
No.
It's at best volunteer effort to be there on weekends and overnights when all those things happen that we don't like.
And they are required to, come to the trainings, to the maintenance nights that they have within their companies. However, none of that is paid. So when they come in to do their trainings with their companies or their maintenance nights, all that, they are given that time for free to us.
Well, that's something to look at if you're out there, especially if you live in a rural area and know the dangers. It kind of becomes one of those areas where you want to share your time, so somebody would share back with you. Yeah. You mentioned water. You don't think about that until you get out there and all of a sudden there's no hydrant to hook into. Yeah. So you have to haul all of your water. How can you carry enough water to put out any sort of major fire?
A lot of it looks into, and like I say, we're restructuring a lot of the stuff that's done within the county on how the initial alarm comes out. If it's a grass fire, we have certain units respond. Whether it's a structure fire in the same area, it would be a different call out where different companies with different apparatus would initially respond. Part of that has to do with the engines that have the pumps on them capable of fighting a structure fire or a grass fire, and then whether or not the tankers come out. And there are 3,000 gallon tankers located in Ellis, Victoria, and Hayes that automatically respond on a structure fire. So there's a lot of aspects to it on what gets paged out, and where it's at, and who's going to respond with what.
So many times we see these fires along interstate, and that requires your team to be out getting those things done, getting those fires put out quickly before they spread, especially when you mentioned Kansas wind. Fire gets started, and it can be 2 or 3 miles down the road by the time you get there.
Yes. Just last couple of weeks, we had 2 great instances of that where a car fire north of town spread over 3 section lines, and it was over a mile long. Started at one intersection, went the complete whole mile and into the next. And then right off the interstate out there by Home Depot, a couple weeks ago, we had that fire where we had several companies and the city of Hayes come out and assist with that. So it's different when you get out there into those open prairies.
How do you cooperate with not only the city of Hayes here, but maybe other areas, other counties, if they have some type of large fire? Do you coordinate just, I guess in a sense, just communication? or do you actually loan each other some trucks or some volunteers, or people say, I'll go over help in this county kind of thing?
We have what we call mutual aid agreements located within the county as well as in the surrounding counties around us. For instance, about 2 weeks ago, Rooks County up north had a grass fire. We went up there and assisted them with their fire. And then when the fire came back down here, or when we had the fire here a couple weeks ago, they also responded with one of their brush trucks and a tanker. So it goes mutual whenever we need help. You know, we just can't be afraid to ask. We got to set our pride beside us, and you know, when we need help, we need that water and we need the guys there. So.
You had a radio in here that was earlier we were listening to, and you said, well, we have to keep it there. Communication being the key, is you have to have, the volunteers have to have that radio on or they can't respond quickly. As you mentioned, you go across the county, it takes you 15, 20 minutes from wherever you are to get there, and buildings could be gone by then.
Yeah, studies show that a typical, what we call a flashover, where a room would be fully engulfed in flames, usually happens between 13, 14 minutes. Like I say, depending on where we're at in the county, by the time we get there, we're already to reach that point. So at sometimes in those situations, all we're going to be able to do is stay outside and protect anything else, what we call exposures, from being involved or anything spreading outside that fire. More than likely that house or home or shed, barn could be a complete loss. And that's just the nature of, you know, having a volunteer fire department, unfortunately, and public safety is expensive, and we can't afford to have full-time firefighters staffed throughout the county at all times.
And especially in very rural parts of a county. And
Correct.
you know, we have some populated areas. You go farther west, it gets harder and harder to do that sort of thing. I want to talk a little bit about severe storms, rescue, that type of thing. I know you've been involved with some training on rescue type things. We'll come back, talk about that. Also, we're going to come back and maybe some pointers as to what people should be careful of, especially when they're driving down the road, and how those fires start, what they should do if they see a fire, and those sort of things. Our guest today is Darin Myers, who's the police chief, or the fire chief for rural Ellis County. We'll be back with more after this.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Welcome back to the second half of our forum program. It's brought to you by Hayes Med. If you have any questions, comments, ideas, suggestions, please send them to me at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. I'd like to hear from you. Our guest today is the Rural County Fire Chief, and that's Darin Myers. He's with us right here. We just hear his radio going off over here. How often does that go off? I mean, is that something that happens when you get alerts 24/7, 7 days a week? Is that your job?
That's the luxury of being in volunteer or emergency services. 24 hours a day, we have to respond. You know, to that there was an EMS call early in the morning.
Do we need to go get in the truck and go somewhere?
Nope, we're good there. Ambulance is responding to that call. So.
All right. Well, one of the things, and this brings into that 24-hour emergency management type of thing, when we have severe weather, that causes lightning strikes, damage, you know, rescue type things. And you've been involved in some of the rescue training over the last couple of years. Does that transport over, that knowledge fit well with the new rural county area you're in?
Yeah, with doing the county fire department now, we've talked a lot about the structure and the wildland part of of what we do. Actually, the majority of our calls within the county fire department are actually rescue calls. We run about 39% of our calls being rescue EMS based, which is a couple percent higher than all the other types of grass fires.
Translated would be car wrecks.
Car wrecks and EMS assist, those are minimal, but in the same category. So we run quite a few vehicle accidents. We just actually ran one this morning north of Hayes where a vehicle hit a deer. But there's today's world, the vehicles are changing a lot. High strength steels to different alloys and a whole bunch of different things we have to look at. It requires different types of tools, different ways to get into vehicles. And so it does bring a lot into it. And we actually bring people into the county to train on that as well.
Now, does the county have the equipment for that, or does that equipment come from other areas within the county?
Back in, I believe it was about 2006, 2007, the city of Hayes actually responded to all the vehicle accidents outside in the county. And the city of Hayes transferred that burden or responsibility over to the county. And now there are rescue tools on all trucks in, the trucks in Ellis, Victoria, and Hayes. And they'll respond to all the accidents throughout the county from there.
And that takes some training to run those tools.
Yeah.
Those, I mean, you look at those, you see, if you have a chance to ever cover an accident, you see those tools being used, and they're not simple tools, but they're so important to be able to get people out of vehicles.
There's a lot of basic principles to them, but there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different tips and tricks and things you need to know on how to use them that make them so much more easier. So it's...
You're new at your position. What are you going to be working on over the next few months and years to kind of get everybody and the volunteers to where they need to be, or you feel they need to be? Are there some projects you have that saying, hey, we need to work on this?
One thing, what's kept me busy the last couple of weeks to a month is we moved into our new facility. So now that we've crossed that hurdle, now it's getting settled in and getting unpacked and organized. But over the next few years, I'd like to concentrate on, we've done a survey throughout the county after I took over and listened to people's concerns and comments and what they like to see. Where are we going to go in the next couple of years? And a lot of what I've received from them is the training. And it's not the fact that we need to do more training, we need to focus more on when we can do it and the quality and what we're going to receive out of that training. So I need to work on ways to work into their volunteer schedule to bring them or provide them quality types of training. Going back to the rescue, I've got quite an extensive background in that where I can do some of that myself. However, sometimes it's just as beneficial to bring outside agencies in to do types of training too. And that's where I think we need to focus on is we have so many different standards throughout the county where we need to come together as one joint standard for everybody within the county, so that way everybody's trained equally, everybody knows what to expect from one company to the next, and have everybody work together. Most of the time when we're out on a car fire or a vehicle accident, a structure fire, there's multiple companies out there working together, and we need to intermingle them more so that way they can train together more and they're more proficient and effective when they're out there on the fire scene or emergency scene. And that training is the backbone to all of that.
One of the things that we went into the break talking about, what do people need to know that are watching this program about not only fire safety, but what should they do if they see an accident? How do they get a hold of you? What's the best thing to do in that case?
Well, as everybody's always told, one of the first things you need to do is call 911, especially if you're an observer. Call 911 and get the appropriate emergency services out there, whether it be a sheriff, police, fire, and ambulance, and then lend your assistance, but only do so in a manner that you feel safe and comfortable doing it. Don't put yourself in a situation that you're going to put yourself at risk to get yourself hurt or make the situation worse for us when we get there. But definitely call 911 when you can. Use a lot of common sense on the other side of it as being safe. We talked driving down the interstate. Discarded cigarettes causes a lot of fires, and that could lead to significant damage depending on which way the wind's blowing and where that cigarette's at. There's a lot of homes right up next to the interstate, and you never know what could happen with like I say, the wind blows 20, 30 mile an hour some days. It's going to go a long way before we get there.
You see some of the California fires and up in Washington State and those areas where the fires just take over. We're not too far when it's really dry from having that same sort of environment with the rural areas that we have out here. And you say a cigarette, just one small spark, can just cause a real mess for not only you, but put lives in danger in our area.
It's only been about, since the last big fire, and I remember because it ended right on our property in southwest part of the county, where several thousands of acres burnt. And it's only just a matter of time before something like that's going to happen again. Hopefully it's another 20 years, but you just can never tell when something like that's going to be when it's going to happen.
Well, somebody wants to meet the new rural county, Ellis County Fire Chief. Where do they find you? What's the best way to communicate with you if they have an idea or something they'd like to talk to you about?
Our new building, located 1105 East 22nd, is where the new Ellis County Emergency Services building is at. Myself, the emergency manager, Bill Ring, and the MS director, Carrie McHugh, we're all located in that facility. You can also reach me at our office number at 785-625-1061. and if I'm available, I'll take the call. If not, we can schedule an appointment to meet.
Very good. Well, Darin, it's good to have you on the program. It's good to see the energy you bring to this, because carrying around that radio means carrying around the responsibility for protecting a lot of people in Ellis County. So thanks for your work there.
It's a great honor to serve everybody within our county. This is a great profession. It's a pride and true traditional, a lot to it, and I take great pride in what I do.
Very good. Thanks for being here. Our guest on the program today has been new Ellis County Rural Fire Chief, Darin Myers. Thanks for watching the program. It's brought to you by HaysMed and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
HaysMed is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, HaysMed is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. HaysMed, helping people be healthy.